Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with a new PB&J card class. And this is our first video out of 12 in our new video series of card making motivation with sketches. So we've got a new year and we've got new card sketches for you. And so I am so excited to be kicking off things with this first video. So here is a look at the sketch that we are featuring today. This is such a simple design. You're simply going to just frame your focal point image on the left and you leave room for a sentiment on the right. So I like to prep all of my elements in advance. So I've done some embossing with Penny Black's Baroque embossing folder, and I have the frame it die that's cut. I like to layer a couple of those up just for dimension. So this is what I'm starting with in my envelope. Now before we get going, I just wanted to mention I do have an ebook that has all of the card sketches for this video series. So if you're interested in showing your support, I'll put a link for that down in the YouTube description box below. So I've got my sketch elements ready. Now I'm going to decide what I want to fill my sketch with. So I'm starting out here by stamping Penny Black's Cute Couple stamp using Archival ink in the color of watering can onto Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. I am doing that in a stamp positioning tool because that paper does have some texture to it, and that lets me just get a couple of tries at a good impression. I also have the Enchantingly stamp from Penny Black, which I stamped using Toffee Crunch onto that same Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. So now I'm going to do my painting using Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. So I've got all of my elements ready there on my table. I'm also going to use that Toffee Crunch ink pressed onto an acrylic block to paint the boy and the girl. Now, I will link for you down in the YouTube description box below a video that goes into much more detail about my painting and watercolor process, but I just wanted to show you how I painted these guys in. I also wanted to mention that while right now painting with the Distress Ink Reinkers is my favorite method for coloring in images, that doesn't mean that's the way that you have to color your images. So you can still follow these sketches and designs and stamps, but go for whatever coloring medium makes you most happy. So whether that's markers or colored pencils, maybe you like to just use a lot of colored cardstock for your designs, or paper piecing. If that makes you happy, I say go for it every time and just let that bring you joy till you don't love it anymore, and then try something new. So don't feel like just because you don't like to watercolor that you can't follow along with these sketches or with these stamps. Just simply reach for whatever you like the most. So I'm just going to continue to paint these in. I added a little bit of spun sugar to their cheeks just to give them a little bit of a blush. Now these images are so adorable. They're great for Valentine's cards, but any love themed card, friendship cards, anniversary cards, wedding cards even, they can be used for. So I love that Penny Black with these stamps, they keep them very versatile. They aren't specific Valentine, even though they could be used for that, but just in general, they're a love Valentine theme. Also, this sketch is sort of simple enough that you really could use this for any type of card. In fact, I recently did some cards using this sketch that were winter themed cards. So very different. I did some scenic cards with it. So this is one of those sketches, and my goal with these sketches that they would be approachable no matter what you are planning to make, whether that's birthday cards or Christmas cards or love themed cards. Now for my painting, I'm kind of picking up that Reinker ink from my palette, and that is what is on my brush, and it's very concentrated, and I put it where I want it to be darkest. Then off camera I will rinse off my brush and pat it dry on the paper towel, and then go back and blend that. And that is how you can get a blend from dark to light. Also, you can go back in and add other colors on top. Like here, I'm putting a touch of yellow with that red because I wanted it to stay more of a red tone than a pink tone. You'll notice I jump around on the image. That way, I'm trying not to color two areas next to each other that are pretty wet. What can happen when you do that is paint will go wherever the paper is wet, so they can start to sort of blend and mix together. So if you're doing a different color or different light and dark shading, you may want to sort of jump around your image like this, or just dry it in between with a heat tool. If it's not too wet, you'll probably be fine. Now these images are so cute and so well illustrated. This is something I love about penny black stamps, whether it's flowers or cute kitties or kiddos or critters, that even if you don't want to spend a lot of time coloring, you could simply just color these in just a flat wash of color and not do any type of shading, and they're going to look just as cute because the quality of the illustration is there. And so that's just something I love. You get good results when you start with a good stamp and a good image. So I'm just going to continue painting these guys in. Now I'll move down here. Now I stamped these with watering can archival ink, so that's a waterproof ink. And I like that it's not quite as stark as a black. And for me, once you start adding these vibrant colors, it just has a little bit more of a hand sketch look to me than a dark black. Often will have more of like a coloring book stamped and then colored in look. So it's a very subtle thing, but that's why I've stamped these using that watering can ink. Just again popping around here to color them in. I love with images like this too, deciding like what color the outfit should be, and how just changing that alone can really change the whole look of the stamp or the design. So that's something else that's really fun to do. Here I want his shirt to be pretty light but also to look finished, so I just grabbed a little bit of that Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker and put that down. And then I put a little bit more than I wanted, so I went in with what's called a thirsty brush. So it's been patted dry on my paper towel and then kind of lifted some of that color. And again, I go into that in a lot more detail in that video I'll link for you down below. Now I will have listed for you down below all of the penny black products that I'm using. I also have a section called Other Supplies in the YouTube description box, and that will tell you everything else that I'm using. Paintbrush, paper, the colors of reinker I'm using. That is all listed for you down in that box as well. And then because I stamped that in that watering can ink, I do have a PITT Artist pen. It's just a very fine journaling tip that I can go in and just darken the eyes and the nose. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Now with this flower, I'm going ahead and doing that just for the center stamen. Before I color that in, I like to sort of see that and have that a little bit bolder. So now we'll go ahead and do a little bit of the painting with the flower, putting down that dark color where I want it to be dark, sort of like where the other petals are overlapping onto the petal that's behind. Then I will rinse off my brush, pat it dry, and go back and blend. And that's how you get, again, that dark to light, and just dropping in a little touch of yellow for interest, and also to keep that lighter area from being too pink. Pink would be pretty though. You'll notice here as I'm creating using these sketches, I am working even within the sketch in an assembly line fashion. So I had the sketch all prepped and ready to go, and I actually did all of my sketches at one time. Then I pull out an envelope and I think, okay, which stamps do I want to sort of fill these sketch designs with? And so I pick out those. Then I stamp all of those. So I do all my stamping at once. Then I can go back and do all of my coloring at one time, and then assemble the cards later. Now at one time doesn't mean all in one sitting, but I can sort of work on it in that progression. That way if I just have a few minutes that I can sit down and do something creative, I already know, I've already decided basically what I'm doing. Am I picking out the stamps today? Am I stamping them? Am I doing a little bit of painting or coloring? And so for me that just takes away a lot of the decisions and breaks it down into these manageable chunks. I think sometimes with our hobbies it can feel overwhelming. We know we want to do something creative, but where to start and getting everything out can feel like a chore. And so for me, this process really helps me get in there and enjoy my creative time and get started. So I finished painting those leaves. Now I'm going to work on a little background that goes behind that frame. So I do have some smooth Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I put, using an ink blending tool and a foam pad, some Faded Jeans Distress ink onto that. You could certainly use colored cardstock for that as well. For the one with the flower, I'm going to use Toffee Crunch ink. And again, you can see I'm working in that assembly line fashion, doing all of the backgrounds next. And I think that actually was Gathered Twigs. I apologize. That was Gathered Twigs Distress ink. And then I have grabbed Penny Black's Trees in Bud stamp, and I'm going to just add a little subtle light background stamping. So I'm using the same color that I inked with. I've grabbed that Faded Jeans, and I just stamped that background. So now I'm ready to assemble the card. I can grab these frames that were ready to go inside of my sketch envelope and just glue that onto the background. And then I'm going to put these kiddos right on top. So I'm going to put a little bit of foam adhesive on the top part of them and then just glue on the bottom. I just love how that frame just makes everything work. I've stamped my sentiments and trimmed down my embossing folder background. I wait to trim that because I want to see how far and how big my element in the frame is going to be. So I have it prepped in the envelope, but then I trim it down here at the end. This is just a piece of that watercolor paper trimmed into just a little strip, and it provides a nice finishing touch for that seam right there. So I'll glue that down and trim off the excess, and then add my framed element. So let's go ahead and look at the 3 cards made with this sketch. We just saw that one finishing up. I love with this too, you can add whatever sentiment you want on the side. There's already a place designated for it. It's also great if you have some larger sentiments that you want to feature. Here I added a flower inside that frame and just a couple of butterflies. And then some cute little bunnies, and with the frame it's fun to have some either sitting on top of the frame or some popping out of the frame. So here are still shots of each of those cards. I'd love to know which one is your favorite, or if you could see yourself using this sketch. Leave me a comment down below. I just really truly appreciate all of your encouragement and kind words. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to our channel. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified when video number 2 in this video series comes out. And you can continue to connect with Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, as well as Instagram, our website, and our blog. Thanks for watching, and happy stamping.